let's see if I can get the mic at a point this morning where it's not going to be getting a lot of distortion in it. You know, I can see why people that do this professionally need to have a crew. Sometimes it's hard to do all the technical stuff on your own. Yeah, that was kind of lame, I suppose, the way I did the music, but it worked, I guess, for the most part. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 6th of February, 2018. I'm Roy Potter, and here you are at the Potter Expositor. Welcome. I'm glad that you can be here. First order of business, of course, is to make sure that everything is working okay. So I'm going to check the chat room here and ask if the sound and the picture is all right. It's been crazy on the internet. I don't know if any of you saw my announcement last night that we were going to have this live stream today, but wow, I just hope it doesn't get interfered with this morning. I've checked with the company, and they can't give me any more power, but or any more access. But they guaranteed me that it wasn't them that was causing that last night. Yet I've had similar problems before, so I don't know. You know, who knows really what was going on? Of course, they're not going to, you know, talk bad about the service or anything like that. But it was a problem for sure. Okay, there are a few things I wanted to get at this morning very quickly. There's a lot to talk about. Have you ever heard that before? Oh, I'm sure you have. More than once, I imagine. And, of course, Pam Jones for Liberty will be on in about a half an hour. She's going to call in, and we're going to talk about chemtrails. The actual term that the government uses and the corporations in the deep state is stratospheric aerosol injection. So if you ask about chemtrails, I can say we don't know what you're talking about. But Pam is an expert on that. She's an activist in this thing. She's been working on it for a long time. And we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about the 5G, actually even the 3G and the 4G and the Wi-Fi that's poisoning us, and the types of symptoms it can cause, and what's happened to her over the last year or so. She finally had to turn her Wi-Fi off, but we'll get to all that, just to let you know that that's coming up. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that I saw from Jake Morphonios this morning. Of course, he's Blackstone Intelligence. He's been doing a great job on the Las Vegas shooting. He does great reporting, period. As I've said before, I've named a lot of people, and he's certainly one of them. And we're pretty sure that he was, that the deep state, probably through the FBI, probably tried to set him up on a financial situation. He used to investigate financial crimes and situations, so he recognizes them when they happen. And, you know, he's been very vocal, especially about pointing out what's going on in Vegas, which is a real turning point, a real sore spot for the deep state, because they've been trying to hide that for so long. Of course, he's talked about 9/11, a lot of things. But at any rate, they tried to entrap him. We're sure it was not somebody like the Nigerians that tried to call you for money. This was an entirely different situation. In his professional career, he recognizes the real attacks, the real deals, and this, we're certain, was an attack by the deep state, an attempt to entrap him. Obviously, through the FBI, they can't find real criminals. Obviously, they're walking around free, like Hillary and Podesta, Comey, etc., Obama. They can walk around free because the FBI can't find real criminals. They have to try to go after patriots and people who are trying to fix the country, just like they're doing to Donald Trump. It's a shameful situation, and if I were president, you know, I wouldn't just be looking to jail Hillary. I'd be going after all those other people, and I think he is. It's just he's having to do it, you know, to take his time, make sure he has a good case. Anyway, give your prayers to Jake Morphonios. If you can get on his channel, Blackstone Intelligence, and just give him a great applause and thank you for all that he does. He has been put in danger, at least. This is at least the second time that I know of, and he could probably talk to you about a lot more. I also wanted to mention, let me grab something here. I got a special request from a Sharon Tobe. Sharon, I hope I said your last name right. To put this out, I got it the other day, And she asked me just to mention it because she thought I could reach some people to talk about how problematic this is. And so I want to read this to you. I think if I read it to you, it would make a lot more sense, and it'll take less time than if I use my verbosity to explain the situation. So just listen to this, and you'll understand, I think, what's going on. This is really bad in a lot of ways, especially with the midterm elections coming up and all other things. So let me just read this to you. This is what she says. Hey, Roy, I just found out they are using comparisons of voter affiliation to votes in the presidential election to redistrict in Pennsylvania. More Republican votes than registered Republicans, so they are redistricting in favor of Democrats. In other words, people that changed from Democrats to Republicans but didn't do it officially, they're redistricting to go back to the Democrats to try to get those areas sewn up for the Democrats. I just checked mine, and in Texas affiliation doesn't come up, but in Colorado I was registered a Democrat. So party crossers, in other words going from Democrat to Republican, that support Trump need to update their affiliation to Republican, or they'll screw us that way. Will you help get that info out? So I hope you did take that seriously. There are all kinds of dirty tricks. As I mentioned in this video, what I call it the hidden war. This isn't about protecting the American constitutional republic. It isn't about protecting Americans. It's about taking away everything that at least we want to stand for, and even imprisoning us in one way or another, and ultimately, unfortunately, culling us. So anyway, this is one way that they can do it. So I wanted to get that out. A shout out to Sharon Tobe. She is on Twitter. You can find her. Let me get that for you. On Twitter, it's at SJTOBE, and that's all lowercase. So it's at SJTOBE. I wanted to get that out real quick. And, I always give a shout out to my colleagues. Some I've met, some I haven't. Some we just do a great deal of communication over the internet, phone, things like that. I have, of course, met Jordan Sather. All of you know him, at least you should, of Destroy the Illusion. An excellent young man who does a lot of work on a lot of different subjects, all of which are interesting as far as I'm concerned. Jordan's doing a great job. Of course, Isaac Green, I always mention these young men. James Munder, who had some difficulties, as you probably all know, with somebody. We're not sure who it was, but anyway, he had some problems. Those apparently are rectified at this point. Isn't that a funny name, rectified? Huh. I'd like to do the etymology on that. I wonder if that has anything to do with proctology. But could be, I don't know. That's the kind of thing my brain works on. It's kind of funny. At any rate, so I wanted to mention them as usual, and also American Intelligence Media, as always, Betsy and Thomas. Also American Intelligence Reports. I think her name is Katie. Does an excellent job. And of course, I've already mentioned Jake Morphonios, and of course, then there's Shepard Amblis again. And I could continue on. Now, Sergeant Report put out an excellent piece. I think it was yesterday, and you need to go see it. Go see the most recent Sergeant Reports, maybe the last two. They're very, very good, and they're very important. As a matter of fact, I tweeted a couple of them out. Let me get this up here real quick and see what I have. Well, I didn't actually put it on my phone, so I'm not going to be able to look it up for you, so I apologize for that. But it's absolutely excellent. It's a short video, not very long at all, and it really kind of puts everything in a nutshell that's going on right now. So please go take a look at that. Yes, it's called, I found it. Again, it's Sergeant Report. That's capital S, capital G, capital T, capital R, E-P-O-R-T. It's on YouTube. And the name of the video is The Black Forest. Please go watch that. As I put on my Twitter, this is muy importante, okay? Very, very much so. So I'd love you to go see that. And for those of you who need to stay updated, that's a good way to do it. Finally, I'll bring up two brilliant people, and I know they get tired of me giving them these accolades, but Tracy Beanz and Scott Anthony. I am convinced they are two of the best investigative reporters in the world today. There are things going on behind the scenes that I can't talk about. They communicate with me. I'm kind of in the loop. I'm sure they have me out of the loop on some things. If I were them, I would. But it's really incredible what these two talk about and what they uncover, and then the presentations that they make. Of course, Scott was really important in uncovering the real facts behind the Las Vegas shooting and the aircraft, along with Shepard Ambulance too, and Jake Morphonios. But Scott actually did some extra work. And he's doing, it's just incredible, both he and Tracy Beanz. So these things that are happening behind the scenes, I wish I could tell you more about them. I think one of them I'm not supposed to mention anything formal about, but there's going to be an event in about a month or two that I hope you all hear about and take part in if you can, and that's all I'll say about it right now. And then I also wanted to mention the Isikoff situation that has been uncovered. Of course, he had something to do with the Clintons, reporting on the Clintons back in the 90s. And on some of the nefarious things that were going on there, and all of a sudden he pops up on this Russian dossier business, and Scott's been doing a really fantastic unveiling of that, which I'm sure he'll put out eventually. And then Tracy Beanz, of course, has been doing a lot of work on the Page situation with the 2016 FISA warrant, and the anomalies in that, and how ridiculous that whole thing is, if you've been listening to her. So I wanted to give those shouts out real quick. I'm trying to go through a lot of things here before Pam comes on, because I want to give her a lot of time to talk. She's a wealth of information on the chemtrails, the stratospheric aerosol injection, and also on this whole Wi-Fi thing. We've talked about on a couple of videos now in the past about the 5G coming up, which is already here. They're testing it, and I think that's a lot of what we're seeing as far as some people having some reactions to it. The nanotech that's been sprayed in the atmosphere along with the aluminum and the barium, and also the things in the water and all that. You know, this all sounds conspiratorial, but when you look into it and you study it, and you look at the white papers, the government documents, the patents, it's all there, ladies and gentlemen, it's all there. And that's why I say this is a hidden war. And this isn't about fixing the world for us, about fixing the planet for our future. It's about culling us. It's about controlling us. And that sounds like tinfoil hat, and it sounds like, Chicken Little. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at history, and especially what's been happening in the last 60 years, it's absolutely true. Actually, I could take it back to about mid-1800s. I did some study back then and found out that historically this thing was planned by these people over almost 150 years ago. But we don't have enough time to go through all that here. I just throw these tidbits of information out for you. Okay, so let's move on from that. Trump, I believe, is roping in the traitors. He's giving them all the rope that they need to hang themselves. I mean, this is so frustrating for us. We see all this criminality, and Jeff Sessions is still... Now, for those of you out there who have said that Jeff Sessions is, he's just biding his time, he's doing all this work behind the scenes, okay? All right. Okay, I'll give that to you, although I have my doubts. But now that the memo has come out and all this is going forward, showing where Trump is headed, there's no reason for Jeff Sessions to sit on the sidelines anymore. And if he does, he's a bad actor. And I'm just going to say it up front. If he doesn't act now, he's a bad actor. And no, I don't trust Wray either. I think there was an Intel insider who said trust Wray and trust Sessions. I don't. And there are a lot of other things about those posts I don't trust, at least presently. I think I can talk, now that that comes up, I might talk about this one. And this is just a primary example of why I say the Q drops are such a problem. Yeah, there's a lot of good information there. However, I think, and I probably shouldn't tell you who brought this up, but I'll just mention it. He knows who he is, and he may have already tweeted this out. As a matter of fact, I think he did. But on one of the Cube drops here the last day or so, I hope most of you are familiar with Q. This person or this group, this team, claims to be on the inside with the Trump administration and is leaking this information out to awaken the people. And I think there was some merit to that early on when it first started back in October or so, on up through possibly past the first year. But since then, I've been very suspect of things. Not saying it isn't good information as far as being able to discuss it and all that, but it can get you in tunnel vision where you're not doing other things. And I warned about that from the beginning. But regardless, this next thing is a perfect example. So during the State of the Union address, there were some, of course, a lot of shots, camera shots, video of different people in the chambers, and this one focused on some Democrats who, of course, were being asinine as far as I'm concerned, the way they were acting. And Q put out, look at 1 and 4, talking about these different videos, and we're supposed to find this little puzzle, and this person that I'm talking about, this investigator, he makes a good point. He says, I took a lot of time. That thing, that little hint, that little puzzle, took me away from my other work for hours while I tried to figure out what it was. I'll tell you what it was. Somebody had texted out, one of the Democrats or somebody was on one of these phones, one of the Democrat phones, Trump should be shot. That's what it was. That's what we were supposed to look for. Why didn't Q just tell us instead of having all of us waste all that time? That is a perfect example of my problem with Q. Perfect example. Am I going to be there studying Q, trying to figure out what's on this cell phone screen instead of doing a broadcast about all these other subjects we're concerned with? I've called for it a long time. The puzzles have to stop. The deep state already knows what the hell's going on, okay? They're not stupid. The FBI is taking countermeasures to try to stop Trump, as is the CIA. These puzzles don't mean anything. The only time that it's worthwhile was to start to wake people up, but you can do that differently now, Q, okay? If you're still the real dude or real deal, and I don't know if you are. I have some real serious questions, as all of you know. So the puzzles, again, have to stop. If you have to send authentication codes, go orders, directives, you can do it without tying up all of these patriots on these silly puzzles. Okay? The Black Forest thing. Why didn't you just come out and say it? Is that some secret? You could do the rhetorical and make us want to go look at it, but forcing us to have to solve the puzzle it's just getting old. I'm just going to say that in front of everybody. And that was a perfect example of it. If that had been put out right away about what that cell phone text had said, there would have been an uproar right away. Instead, we're all going, what the heck? And we're wasting all this time. Just irritates me. Okay, I need to pass on also that apparently on the night of, on Sunday night, I suppose it was, January 4th, Fox News had a power outage all across their D.C. bureaus. I don't think that was an accident, and I don't think they think it was an accident either. So they're starting to go, if they can't censor us one way, they'll do it another. Maybe, my problems with the internet may be an example of that. As a matter of fact, I better check that real quick and see what the strength is right now. Well, we're looking pretty good right now. Like I say, if it gets bad, let me know, okay? I probably ought to bring the chat up here. So, of course, I don't always look at that very closely. I have a problem keeping track of that. Okay, so at any rate, Fox News power went out, and this is just it's a war, ladies and gentlemen. It absolutely is. These are demons that do not want you to be able to express yourself. They only want their ideology out there and nobody else's. And they're for civil war, both by words and these arguments, these shutdowns, censorship, things like that. But they're going to turn to violence. Tucker Carlson is interviewing. Well, this has happened to a lot of patriot reporters, people that are interested in sustaining the constitutional republic. Got attacked for being a Russian agent again, and that he's helping the Russians and all this baloney. This is like the second or third time that's happened. And of course it happens to all of us all the time. Name calling is how you When you can't win an argument on the facts, name calling is what you resort to. Okay? And unfortunately, too many Americans are too dumbed down to understand that. They fall into the mind control, and that's unfortunate, but that's what the MSM has been doing now since Operation Mockingbird. Well, you know, that was in the 50s, of course, 60s actually, 50s and 60s, to control, they actually took over American news organizations to feed us propaganda, which should be illegal. And then, of course, the NDAA 13, the Patriot, and then the NDAA 13 said, Congress told them, yes, it's okay to lie to the American people, and we talked about that before, and then they actually funded that. Trump needs to defund these programs. He needs to insist on it. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up so that you all knew that that was going on. It's really becoming a dangerous problem, and they are calling for people in the streets, violence, and of course, if you respond and even defend yourself, they're going to point the finger at you, because that's what they do. They're satanic. They accuse others of what they do themselves. So just be aware, prep, pray, stay out of the way as much as you can. Next subject, the stock market drop. I said, you know, last night I wanted to cover that, not in any depth. I am not a financial analyst. I don't even have that in my fondest dreams. Oh, no, that's not a fond dream. Stock market dropped 1,175 points. The first drop was 666. Now, Q brought this up as well, but a lot of other people understood it. We didn't need Q to tell us. Another example. The 666, of course, this was a deliberate manipulation by the Federal Reserve, by the Rothschilds, by the New World Order. It was sending a message that no matter what Trump does, they control the markets in the end. Well, we'll see about that, okay? If Trump is who he says he is and hasn't been fed to us as a placebo, and I pray that that's not the case, and I don't believe that's the case, then he is going to fight this with every ounce of his being and get as many people to help him as he can. All right, so I wanted to bring that up. It was obviously, they're going to tank. Monograph did a really good, he's done several good videos about the fact that, you know, the whole 5G thing, the nanotech, the flu epidemic, they're going to use that as an excuse for the stock market falling, which he anticipates will be next month. I'm not an expert on that kind of stuff. It very well could be. I would say at least to make, you know, prep, pray, and stay out of the way, to make preparations, because they will do that. It's like I said, they'll destroy everything rather than lose power. So make sure that you have at least your necessities, like I always talk about. So they attack the stock market. They can control that. Trump had it way up. Now, I want to just say also that I think it's bad to I'm not a financial guy, but I think it's bad to concentrate on the stock market as the barometer, as the thermometer of how well the economy is doing. I don't think that's a worthwhile thing to do. It can be ballooned up unrealistically. It can be dropped unrealistically. Unfortunately, a lot of money is involved, but the real indicator of how well the economy is doing are things like jobs, are things like new businesses. Very important that older businesses aren't going out of business. And I'm still seeing that, ladies and gentlemen, around where I am, which is supposed to be one of the better economic areas in the country. Things are still shutting down. Now, I know that the internet is playing a big part in that. You know, a lot of the retail stores are going out because of the internet. I understand that, and so we have to make that transition. But this goes deeper than that, because I'm seeing it in the service industries as well. I don't know how you guys are looking at it, but I see a lot of indications that there are some problems, big ones. So at any rate, they manipulated the stock market. Again, a hidden war. They'll try to get you this other way. They don't want to destroy the entire infrastructure in the world if they can get rid of us with weapons that will get rid of us, the things that really matter, so that they can have their little play areas and their play toys and their cities and their fantasy lands. They don't want to use nuclear weapons or anything that's going to destroy that. But I guarantee you that if they see no other way out, they will. So just be aware of that. Okay, and then finally, before we get Pam on, I wanted to bring up the situation about Rosenstein, this whole thing that came out about, actually Alex Jones had William Binney on, and he was talking about it. But I wanted to concentrate on this part because it's very, very important. This shows that the people that Trump have advising him are deliberately leading him down the wrong road on so many things. We've got Russia. They're trying to start a war with Russia. They're trying to make him encircle Russia, which should be, and I'm going to say it publicly, Russia should be our sister country. As a matter of fact, Ann Coulter said the same thing, and I do believe that. Except we're more Soviet now than the Russians probably ever were with the things that are going on here in the United States. And I won't delineate those and enumerate them, but that's the fact of the matter. Yeah, all countries, they keep wanting to talk about the corruption in Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, all we got to do is look in the mirror and see the corruption in our own government and in our own country. The massive abortions and things like this. I mean, and you know, trying to start civil war over race issues and all these things that are going on. Russia is not our enemy. They're reacting to our aggression, not vice versa. And so they've gotten Trump to move on Russia, which is, I think, a very bad idea. His campaign promise was to do otherwise. So little things like that bother me. Now, this could be a tactical thing. Maybe he's saying to Putin, look, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But the Russians aren't going to stand for that very long because they're getting in danger. It's like a guy coming up and put a gun on your head and say, I'm not really going to shoot you. I just want to impress my girlfriend. You know, I'm not going to shoot you. I'm not going to rob you. I just want to impress my girlfriend. You know, do you stand there and let him do that? I don't think so. And that's what we're doing to Russia. And it's a shame. You look at those Russian people. The Russian people are wonderful, like most Americans are. Although I think Americans are dumber than most Russians. Sorry. I'm just going to, like I said, I call it the way I see it. Now, all you got to do is watch Jimmy Kimmel, right? And you know that, right? Okay. So getting back to Rosenstein. So they advised the president to sign this directive, and basically what it did is it changed the power structure, the chain of command, really, in the Justice Department, so that the internal affairs people were basically put aside. In other words, there's nobody watching the hen house except the foxes. You remember Eric Holder basically tried to shut down the OIG, Horowitz, and Horowitz had to go to Congress. However you feel about Horowitz, there's some differences of opinion about him, but this incident really happened, okay, where they were trying to shut him down from looking into the Fast and Furious program, right? Holder did, all right? So now Rosenstein went to Trump, had him sign this directive, and now basically the internal affairs has been taken out of the checks and balances system. This is the kind of thing that Trump has done by bringing the type of people in that he has. Is he on a learning curve? Because this happened early on in his administration. I understand that. There's a learning curve, and I'm sure he's a lot wiser now than he was then, even as smart as he was before. But this just shows you the level of corruption and deceit there. And I could go back on my mantra on the DOJ and the FBI and the CIA and just say there's no use saving those institutions. You know, I heard William Binney say, well, we need the FBI. No, we don't. I disagree with him 100%. At least not the way it's presently constituted and operating. No, we don't. As a matter of fact, it is. As my motto on my channel says, because it's part of the intelligence community, the intel community, and I say this so often, don't I? The intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy, and in fact, might be the most dangerous enemy of everything in the world, to everything in the world. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to get out of the way before Pam calls. And again, we're going to talk about chemtrails, the term that then director of the CIA, John Brennan, used was stratospheric aerosol injection. It's like in court with these people. And when you're in court, if you don't use the language that they insist you use in the court, they can blow you off. Well, that's what these guys have done. Because you call it chemtrails instead of stratospheric aerosol injection, they can tell you that doesn't exist, that chemtrailing doesn't exist, that you're a tinfoil hat, that you're ridiculous, all of those things. So language, you know, they're trying to destroy our language. They want to stop the thing about, you know, the relationships of men and women. They don't want to talk about father and mother. They don't want to talk about children. They don't want to talk about the fact that an unborn child is just that, an unborn child, not a biological organism, right? They're trying to change all of our language. But when you get into their sphere, you better damn sight use their language or they'll just blow you off. And that's exactly what Brennan did in that situation there. Okay, so I wanted to bring that up. just be aware that that's what we're going to talk about, part of it. And when you deal with these people, just know that that's the kind of trickery that they do on you. It's sleight of hand, and it's deceit. Plain and simple, it's deceit. God uses plain language. You know, you look at the scriptures, and sometimes it gets complicated because of the way things are written down, but a lot of that has to do with the language barriers and changing into English. The original is pretty simple, and the language interprets itself, unlike English. English, if you have a word like the, T-H-E, it doesn't really have any intrinsic meaning. I mean, yeah, you can do a gematria on it and change it into a numeric code, but based on the position in the alphabet. But basically, it doesn't have any intrinsic meaning. Hebrew, on the other hand, does. And these guys, because of what they are, they actually... Let me answer this because this is Pam. So you there, huh? Good morning. Let me get you on the screen here, okay? And I'm going to bring up the chat room. Let me finish this little subject and I'll be right back to you, okay? I'm so happy you called in. All right. Okay, just a second. All right. So what we have is this change in language that if you understand the basics of the original languages, you understand the codes, because there are codes in the Hebrew, but they're not hidden in the way like they're trying to hide these things, changing our language of mother and father and husband and wife and all that there. The language itself defines what it is and interprets itself, and that's the amazing thing. Okay, well, we're going to go to Pam Jones here. And let me get that set up. I'm going to increase the microphone output just a little bit, which may distort this, but I'll back off or lower my voice somewhat. But I want you to be able to hear her. So let's bring this up to about here, and I'm going to lower my voice. Okay, a little introduction. This is Pam Jones. Pam Jones for Liberty. She's an activist in the entire thing with geoengineering and has done a lot of great work. For one thing, she actually took it upon herself to make many of the memes that you see on my channel, particularly my channel logo. She actually designed that, and I didn't ask her to. She just did it out of the kindness of her heart. I guess she felt like it was worth doing that for me. So at any rate, she's a great artist, she's good at videos, graphic arts, things like that, and she's turned those talents to showing the dangers that we're in by these hidden wars, these hidden attacks that are being made on us, and the lies that they use to continue to perpetrate them. Recently, she's had some problems with Wi-Fi, and she's had to change the way she is living her life. Cut down on the Wi-Fi exposure, which is something that we've all talked about. So without further ado, I'd like to bring her on. Let's do a little test here. Pam, hello. Can you say hi to everyone?
Well, good morning, everyone. How are you? I'm glad to be here with you.
Good, Pam. Well, tell us a little about yourself. Give us a little resume, and then we'll get into the subject matter. How does that sound?
That sounds good. A little resume. Let's see. I'm an old, grumpy grandma that's pissed off about the sun being blocked by the airplane pollution. And I am a publisher by trade. So I spent the last 30 years creating things and putting them either on TV, radio, or in print. So my background is in media. And when I come to realize about 10 years ago that there was a serious situation going on in the skies above my head, I kind of put my company on the back burner and took on fighting this as a full-time job. I kind of work for the Lord, not for money. So I'm self-taught. You know, I have a graphic design team that does everything for me, for my company, but I didn't have time to wait on them to make stuff for me, so I taught myself how to make videos. I taught myself how to make graphic design memes. And yes, Roy, I did make that graphic plate for you because way back when I contacted you, I think you only had, I don't know, maybe 10,000 followers. And I had been following you for years. And I just really thought somebody needs to reach out and help him reach more people. So I am so glad to see that your YouTube channel has grown up. It is huge now, and everybody I know knows who you are. And that they listen to you routinely, so that just makes me so thrilled. And anytime I hear you mention me or, you know, my journey to 5Q engineering, i.e. the white lines in the sky, I just get tickled pink because now I'm getting more exposure. So I really believe if we're going to stop any of this craziness going on, that we have to just help one another because it's the right thing to do, not because there's monetary gain to be made or you're stroking your ego to gain some sort of fame. We're in a, you know, we're looking at the most critical time, I think, ever on the history of our planet. And we need to unite and just do whatever it is that we can. So I appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to come on this morning.
Well, I think that what you have to offer is absolutely important to all of us. And, of course, I've been aware of it for years, and people have me. I remember back, of course, in the days when all you looked at when you looked up in the sky were real contrails that, yes, would follow the jet for, you know, maybe a few minutes and then dissipate. And, of course, now what they do is they spread out into clouds. But I want to address something else that you said real quick. You know, you said that, you know, my channel has really blown up and really taken off. And I just wanted to point out that Obama did say one thing that was not a lie, at least as far as my channel is concerned. And that is that, remember when he said, you know, those businesses, you know, you didn't build that, somebody else did. You remember when he said that? Well, in this case, that's true. People like you have actually helped to build what I've done here. And of course, all I was doing is unloading karma. That was the only reason why I really did this. I didn't do it for fame, for money, or anything. I just worked for the Leviathan beast for 28 years, and I felt guilty. And I just needed to unload some of that karma. So, you know, that's my motivation. But definitely I did not build it. People like you did. So thank you very much. So with that little caveat, yes, please go ahead. Tell us, maybe we can jump ahead. I want to get this out of the way before anything else. We're going to cover the chemtrail thing. But I want to talk about real quick what's happened to you, what this illness is that you have. Because, you know, I did that YouTube video, actually a couple of them, on the 5G nanotech situation and the wet works problem and how that can make you sick. It can even take away your will, force you to do things you don't want to do, force you not to do things you do want to do, all of that. But tell us a little bit about your illness and how you discovered what was causing it.
Well, for the last 10 years, I have had all kinds of very strange illnesses pop up. And they seem to come in 2-year waves, meaning that for 2 years I'll be fighting an unknown, undiagnosed illness, and then I seem to get better for about a year. But here in the last 3 years, it has ramped up. I made a move to a new location about, well, going on 3 years ago. And when I got to this particular location, it seemed like it multiplied 10,000-fold.
Can we say about where you are? You don't have to give your exact location, but about where you are?
I'm in Central California, and I made a 50-mile move from one location to another. And the new location moved into a little modest house with my daughter and my grandson, turned on all the utilities, installed Comcast for our internet, and I didn't think anything of it. The house is running on Wi-Fi. So for the literally last year, 2017, it got so bad, Roy, that I was not able to lift my head off my pillow, open my eyes. I was totally disoriented. I didn't know if it was day or night. I didn't know what day of the week it was. My daughter could say something to me, and 2 minutes later, I would have no recollection of what she had said to me. My business ran between the two cities, the one that I was in and the one that I am in, so I traveled back and forth on a daily basis. And one day when I was traveling from my current location to my old location, which is about a 40-minute drive, I drove all the way through the city I was headed to, and about 30 minutes on the north side of where my destination was. I don't know, I have to say I woke up. I woke up and it was like I had slept the whole way. I had no recollection of the drive. I woke up and I was in the middle of nowhere, and I panicked. I was like, where am I? And what just happened? And I came up on an exit with a truck stop. I exited, got off, and called my daughter and said, I don't know where I am. Because I had called her and said, okay, I'm leaving my office. I'll be home in 40 minutes. And an hour and a half later, I called her and told her, I don't know where I am. And come to find out, I had driven about 30 minutes past where I was headed when I realized that I was lost. And that was the beginning of my panic for what I was dealing with. So it wasn't long after that I just got so sick. And you and I were communicating. I told you I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do anything.
Oh, I remember.
I couldn't literally do anything. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I said I remember that very well.
Yeah, it was really bad. The symptoms that I was having was like a severe chest pain. Like I had a 300-pound man slowly putting pressure on my chest. I have low blood pressure, so I rarely feel my heart beating. But I was having and I still am, severe heart palpitations, severe ringing and humming in my ears, so loud that it hurt my eardrums. My eardrums almost feel like they're vibrating. Severe joint pain. Over the last year, I've literally been in bed, unable to get up and do anything. I can't do anything. But I've lost about 50% of my muscle mass. So I finally, after about 4 weeks, it was about April of last year, after about 4 weeks of laying in bed, unable to even lift my head, I finally told my daughter, look, you got to take me to a doctor, an emergency room or something. Something's really wrong. So I've been going to the doctor now for going on a year. And he told me that my thyroid was fried, put me on some thyroid medication, but it has had no effect on me at all. And so basically I've just been laying in bed dying, but my fingers and my eyes still work, so I lay in bed on my phone and still do my activism, trying to raise awareness of what's going on. And in the back of my head, something kept telling me, Pam, look at the Wi-Fi. Look at the Wi-Fi. Look at the Wi-Fi. Something maybe is going on with the Wi-Fi. But, you know, all of these chemicals and stuff that we're exposed to, and you had made mention of the mind control that's attached to all of this. Really, I usually listen to my gut and listen to my intuition, but for a year I laid in bed and I did not listen to what my intuition was telling me. A good friend of mine, Jim Lee from ClimateViewer.com and WeatherModificationHistory.com, sent me a message and said, Pam, turn your Wi-Fi off, go outside, make some mud, and just really get your feet down in that mud and ground yourself. He told me he thought that it was the Wi-Fi. And it just took that one person who I respect so much because he's so brilliant to reaffirm what my gut had already been telling me. So I turned my Wi-Fi off, and mind you, this Wi-Fi's been running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for I've been in this house 2.5 years now, so my exposure has been enormous. I turned that Wi-Fi off and slept without it that particular night, and I woke up the next day, and my symptoms were had reduced by 75%.
You were a new woman.
I was, exactly. And I was like, okay, something's going on. So every day I've been going out watering around my tree, making it muddy and getting my feet deep into that mud. So I went without the Wi-Fi that night. I turned it on so that I could get on my computer Because as you know, I'm putting together a magazine, and I've got hundreds of emails. I've got a lot of work going on to put this magazine together. And as soon as I turned that Wi-Fi on to access my laptop, I felt like this 300-pound man was starting to stand on my chest, and the humming in my ears just increased it, 20-fold. My jaws were clenching. My heart starts to palpate. My joints start to hurt really bad.
I want to interrupt you here for just a second, Pam, because I want to make sure that the audience understands that this is for real. If you go look up symptoms of microwave technology and now the new milliwave technology, you will see those symptoms listed. It's like in the inserts in the vaccines. They tell you that the vaccine is safe, like they tell you that the microwave and the 5G and all this is safe, but the inserts tell you otherwise if you look at them yourself. And that's the same thing with these things. And as a matter of fact, there are military weapons that now use these systems, much more highly concentrated, but we're talking about exposure over long periods of time like Pam has. And I want to interject one more thing, Pam, and then I'll let you continue on. Of course, we want to get to the chemtrails as well. But if you go listen to American Intelligence Media, Tom and Betsy, Thomas is an amazing guy. Very intelligent, very well read. He was in the NSA. He was in a lot of different things, and he told us some of the remedies for these microwaves and these Wi-Fis and the 5G and all that, and they're really quite simple. And I'm just going to mention a couple of them right now. You already did about grounding yourself. Getting outside and putting your feet in the dirt. That is definitely one way. Of course, shortening your exposure, turning off the Wi-Fi when you don't need it. That's very important because radiation is cumulative in our systems. When Fukushima happened and everybody was saying, oh, the dosages are so small, what they don't understand is that small dosages over time can deliver you a lifetime dose. So it's not the dosage that you get at the moment, it's your exposure over time that matters, and that's what makes it so dangerous. The other thing that Thomas mentioned was you can wear stainless steel. A lot of our watches, are good stainless steel. You can wear that. You can wear necklaces with stainless steel in them. Now, is this white? Is this tinfoil hat stuff? No. What the steel does is it basically breaks up the transmissions of the Wi-Fi and the 5G, 4G, 3G, all of that, so that your body, all your pores are basically antennas. And what this does is it breaks that up so that the radiation doesn't affect you as badly. I'm not saying it's the complete cure, but added together, these things really help. Another thing that they mentioned, I think it was actually Betty that mentioned this, and I'm probably yelling in the mic, pardon me, was diatomaceous earth, food-grade diatomaceous earth. Because there again, you're getting an earth substance and you're ingesting it, and it is ingestible. It's designed to be that way, and it has a lot of other health benefits too, so you might want to consider that. So stainless steel, diatomaceous earth, lowering and reducing your exposure and grounding yourself. And then, like I said, Thomas had some other things as well, which I don't recall right now, but I wanted to put that out real quick. And let me remind the ladies out there, you'll say, well, Roy, this isn't any of your business, shut up. but it's because I think most people know I have a high respect for women, and often my kindness is misconstrued as weakness, or a kind of guy who's trying to get something, you know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is that I sure hope that women now know not to store their cell phone around their chest. Please don't do that. I see that happen so often, and this is the effects of that in the long, and it might not even be a long run. We're seeing an incredible increase in breast cancer, and of course that's because of the food, the water, the things in the vaccines, the chemtrail spraying, all of that. But you put that radiation producing device right there over long periods of time, and you're just asking for trouble. So please don't do that. Okay, with all of those caveats, Pam, go ahead.
Well, I really just came to this realization I think it was a week ago Sunday. So I think it was Sunday night that I finally turned the Wi-Fi off. It was Monday I turned it on to get online to work on the magazine, and my symptoms reappeared. So I turned the Wi-Fi off, and then I thought, well, it's my imagination. I got to get some stuff done. So I turned the Wi-Fi back on, and as soon as I turned the Wi-Fi back on, the symptoms reoccurred. So I turned the Wi-Fi back off. So literally last week, I was doing like my own experiment where I was doing video logs to a very close friend of mine, Carla. So if something happened to me, somebody has record of this so that they can proceed as far as trying to stop this madness. But we turned the Wi-Fi on. My final thing that I was like, yes, it's the Wi-Fi. And this morning, I'm 100% convinced that all my sickness over the last year has been the Wi-Fi. But we turned the Wi-Fi on Saturday, literally for like 15 minutes. And the onset of the symptoms were immediate. I literally had to leave my house, walk out to the street where my RV is parked, and sit on the bumper. I called my girlfriend and I told her I'm having a heart attack. I'm straight up having a heart attack. And she was just panicking. Go turn the Wi-Fi off.
And this lends credence to the thing I was saying earlier, that you've reached a dosage level that is never going to dissipate out of your system. And every time the Wi-Fi you get around it, it's going to kick back in and give you another dose, which is going. You get a tolerance level, but every time you get a dose now, you're getting that tolerance level to increase, and so I should say decrease. So I
have reached maximum exposure. I can't tolerate any of it, and I've literally been doing these video logs where I'll do one in the morning when I wake up, kind of refreshed from not having the Wi-Fi on all night long, and my eyes are bright and sparkly. I'm able to speak. I'm able to think. I'm able to do, just kind of be somewhat normal. But if I turn that Wi-Fi on within 15 minutes, I look like I'm 20 years older. I cannot speak. It's affecting my ability to speak. I've been telling my doctor now for over a year, something is swollen in my throat. And so we've done an ultrasound on my thyroid and all this kind of stuff. He said, no, Pam, it looks fine. So I come home, the Wi-Fi's on, I turn the Wi-Fi. If I go turn the Wi-Fi on right now, Roy, my thyroid will swell. My voice, I won't be able to speak. I won't be able to breathe. It's impeding my ability to breathe. My heart starts to palpate so hard. It's like, have you ever had a heart stress test, Roy?
Certainly, yeah. Many times. The Army made me do it quite frequently.
Okay, so it's your worst moment when you're about to pass out and your heart's just beating like a heart attack. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's how it feels as soon as I turn the Wi-Fi on now. I'm at maximum exposure. If I leave it on, I'm sure that I'll have a heart attack and die. I have no doubt about it whatsoever. So I've had it unplugged since Saturday when I had that last episode. I even turned off my AT&T cell phone service because I was getting messages from other activists that they thought I was being targeted, and apparently they can send extra juice to you. They can go, okay, I want to zap her extra, and they turn up the juice. And I've been saying for a long time, I can hear this humming in my head turn up real high. The pitch will go real high, or the pitch will go down. So it'll go, I can hear it, and I can hear the volume going louder or turning down, which makes me and some other people that I know very well think that they're targeting me. So I want everybody to know I'm totally sane. I'm not going to commit suicide. But it seems like it got worse, Roy, as soon as I announced the launch of my magazine.
Yeah. Any time you step out to do something like that, I used to hear about these targeted individuals, and I've mentioned it on my YouTube channel several times, that the people that are getting targeted or said they were, it didn't seem to make sense to me. But certainly somebody of your stature in the Patriot community, very, very likely that will be, and especially now that they know that you're susceptible to it. And let me just interject here one other thing. I'm not against technology. I think it's a great thing, but they are weaponizing these things against us, just like they weaponized the IRS against us, weaponized the FBI against us, and the DOJ, indeed, weaponized our own government against us, which is supposed to be of, by, and for the people, but now has become for them, in other words, the deep state and the IC. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't object to the technology. But just like with the inserts and the vaccines that they should make you aware of, they should tell you what the countermeasures are to protect yourself from these devices. And their failure to do so isn't a failure, it's deliberate, because they want you to have these symptoms. So you have to take these symptoms, which will eventually kill you, by the way, absolutely. So you have to be willing to take the responsibility, as I always say, responsibility, an ability to respond, to protect yourself against these attacks, just like those who have CCWs, concealed weapon carry permits, licenses. You do that to protect yourself from criminals. You have to be proactive in your defense. I noticed somebody on the chat room here was asking you how your diet is. You know, and that's certainly a part of it too. I'm not saying that that was solely your problem. It certainly isn't. But all of these things we have to take into consideration. We can't live like we did, you know, 100 years ago. I mean, even then you had to take your safety and your security personally. But now these attacks are from places you wouldn't expect, as I titled this video, The Hidden War. Now, Pam, I think what we better do, we don't want to wear people out too much with me talking too. Why don't we get into the chemtrail situation, because that's really been your big effort. And that's why you're being attacked, obviously. So let's talk about chemtrails for a few minutes. Talk about the fact that this is documented, that it is being done. Even the CIA, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the CIA director at the time, John Brennan, called it stratospheric aerosol injection, and that it is a program, and that ostensibly it's supposedly to slow down the warming cycle, which of course we know is a big crock of baloney. The real reason, I believe, is to do what we've talked about recently, the wet works that Thomas brought up, getting ready with the nanoparticles and the chips in us to control us, to track us, etc., even to cause us to murder each other. You know, the zombie thing that has been talked about for so long could easily be a situation where these nanoparticles basically have a frequency sent to them that you cannot control your actions. Those are real deals, folks. These are all DARPA programs. They're real. This is not a fairy tale. It's not tinfoil hat. These are weapons of war that are being turned against American citizens and against the people of the world. So, Pam, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what chemtrails are, how they distribute them in the atmosphere, and what the difference between chemtrails are and contrails.
Well, you know, there's a lot of theories on what's going on in the sky. One theory is that they have destroyed our ozone layer when they were setting off all those atomic bombs, in the 40s and 50s and stuff, and that they have to be spraying this stuff on us to save us. So to kill us to save us is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in my life. Another theory put forth by Jim Lee, and he's actually documented it, and if everybody hasn't been to his websites, I suggest that you go there. One is weatherhistorymodification.com. On that particular website, he has over 100 years worth of newspaper articles talking about weather modification, weather warfare. It's a wealth of knowledge. So he has identified, I forget what year it was, but the UN made a change to the fuel so that all the fuel that they're using around the world was consistent. They weren't using different types of fuels in the airplanes. And when they made that change and made it mandatory for all planes to use the same fuel, is when the lines in the sky really exploded. And you're going to have to forgive me, I can't remember that year, which is a side effect of the EMF poisoning. My memory is just really toast at this particular point. So there's the fuel aspect of it. There's the genocidal aspect of it. They're just doing it to to depopulate the planet. And many people know about the old Hopi prophecy that says that in the days of the purification, there'll be white spider webs in the sky. So there's a lot of theories what's going on. I tend to lean towards there's an additive in the fuel. Now, if you go listen to, I'm forgetting who it was. I have video clips of it, and I'm putting together a video of it right now that talks about them putting these additives in the fuel. I think it was an Alex Jones episode, but there's only 3 major manufacturers of airplane fuel, and their formulas are confidential. They're not allowed to tell us what's in this airplane fuel. So that really raises a whole bunch of red flags for me personally. There's so much fear going on with this, rightfully so, because, you know, we're talking about terraforming the whole entire planet. They're basically reducing the amount of sunshine that we get. They're terraforming our planet. But I want to stay away from the fear-mongering and the big scientific words. That's been my 2018 resolution, is to stay away from those big scientific words, and I'll tell you why. Because those of us who are awake to this know it is SRM, SRA, geoengineering, and of course the CIA word chemtrails, and that was to discredit us when we start to speak up. When we start to notice and started to speak up about this, I want to apply the KISS principle this year, and that's just keep it simple, stupid. We're trying to reach now the average citizen, the average human being, who's staring down at their phones and not paying any attention to what's going on in the sky. It's super easy for these people just to think it's another cloudy day, when in reality, the planes have laid down so many white lines that have spread out and have completely stopped in, you know, entire geographical areas where there's no sunshine getting through. So this particular year, I'm not going to call it geoengineering. I'm not calling it stratospheric aerosol
injection.
Geoengineering. I'm not calling it chemtrails. I'm not using any of those words. And I would encourage everybody to keep it really simple this year, because the average person is who we need to get to look up and just ask one simple question. Why are the airplanes laying down white lines that spread out and block the sun? That's why I'm naming my magazine Sunless. This planet will not survive if it doesn't have sunlight. That's what does photosynthesis. That's what makes everything grow. And you speak about that when you mention geoengineering all the time, and I encourage you to even use it as often as possible. If we can just get to the average person and say, where's the sunshine? You know, we're sunless. Where is the sunshine? What are those white lines behind the airplane? I think that we will be able to get more people to pay attention to us, because these people have been chemically put into a coma. They've been put into comas through electromagnetic frequency, i.e. Wi-Fi, that is changing their ability to think. Because, you know, my last year here, just laying here, people are saying, Pam, do this, do that. I literally can't hold on to a thought, Roy, for longer than just a few minutes. So these people are mind controlled. So we got to get to the simplest core of them, which is their sunshine. How fun is it going to be to go to the beach this year with no sunshine? Mm-hmm. How's it going to be when you go camping and, you know, boating and jet skiing with no sunshine? So if we can keep it simple, I think that we can tip the scales so that more people wake up and we can demand some action. And I would hope that you would agree with that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I agree 100%, Pam. And I'll interject one other thing here. And you mentioned to keep it simple, but I just want to make sure that our viewers understand, our audience understands also, that not only are they mixing it in the fuel, but they actually have military aircraft with a series, many tanks inside the plane that spray separately from the fuel. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that that was also happening as well.
There's clear pictures of 3 nozzles on each wing. So 6 nozzles total that are creating those lines. So there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of documentation. You know, it's redundant for me to get on here and speak with you and just, you know, talk about all this technical mumbo jumbo that a lot of other activists are doing. I'm all about action. And action to me means waking up more minds, getting more people just to look up and go, what are those white lines? My particular stance on it is simple. We see it with our eyeballs coming out of each and every airplane on a daily basis. The airline industry needs to be held accountable at this particular point in life, regardless if it's in the fuel or if they have the tanks inside that's spraying out of those 6 nozzles or 3 nozzles. It doesn't really matter. We see it coming from the airplanes. It's blocking all the sunshine. There's no such thing as, I'm in Central California, the sunny state, and I don't see a blue sky. You know, I see a hazy gray looking blue thing up there. We're talking about our children and our grandchildren never seeing a blue sky, never experiencing a sunrise or a sunset, because some maniacs have gone mad, and before we totally wake up and take them down, they'd rather kill us all.
Yeah, they're about destroying all life. Now, that is what they're about. They always have been, and now they've stepped it up. Absolutely.
Well, you and I have spoke so many times about the spiritual aspect of this, and I am without a doubt convinced that we are in a planetary spiritual war. It's good versus evil, and this is the last battle. And anybody who's not willing to stand up and speak their truth 100% all the time is not going to make, their soul's not going to make it on to their, you know, to their next journey. I'll speak until my last day, and if they're targeting me, so be it. You know, I want to make sure my soul gets to where it needs to be. But yeah, well, I'm sitting outside, I'm looking up, I see one right now. But we've got to start thinking out of the box, you know, posting on Facebook, making YouTube videos, making Facebook posts. All those things are good and dandy, but we're reaching the same people over and over, and that's why I made a commitment to use my life talent, which is publishing, and I'm going to do a really nice magazine called Sunless. And in that magazine, I'm going to talk about where is the sunshine going. And that's really going to hit the heart of the average citizen when they go, what do they mean, where's the sunshine? They'll walk outside and see the sunshine's gone, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just imperative that we start approaching things from a different perspective. I'm going to set the magazine up where you can buy multiple copies and start mailing them. You don't have to do nothing. Just go click, order, and I will mail a magazine to President Trump. I'll mail a magazine to, you know, whoever you want to mail a magazine to. You know, people believe anything in print. People believe anything on NBC's morning news. So we need to take the actual weapons that they're using against us and flip it right around and use it as a Trojan horse against them. So
I agree, Pam. Okay, well, we probably ought to start to close this out. I knew this was going to be interesting, and I so appreciate you. We actually made this arrangement last night. It was kind of on the spur of the moment. But, you know, you've always been there when I needed you, so I appreciate that. And maybe you could tell us one more time how to get a hold of you. Mention your YouTube account, your Twitter account, your magazine account. Let's get that information out so everybody can have access to it.
Okay, I'm all over the place as Pam Jones for Liberty, and I can be reached at pamjonesforliberty@gmail.com, and I'm currently accepting registrations for Skywatchers around the planet, and what I'm looking for, one person per location that can supply me pictures and a brief description of their skies every 90 days. So you can find information on that on my Facebook page and my Twitter page. my website's under design. That's going to be sunlessmagazine.com. That should be up in a couple weeks, and I'm hoping to be able to offer the purchase of the magazine come April 1st, which I thought was a very appropriate day, April Fool's. Like, okay, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And before I let you go, Roy, I want to say one thing. Somebody said something about diet. What everybody has to understand is that we're breathing aluminum nanotechnology.
Right.
I want everyone to take a piece of aluminum and go put that in your microwave and look at what happens to it. It lights up like a Christmas tree. So we breathe that in to our bodies, and then we're being hit by the Wi-Fi. But when it comes to diet, you know, even if you think you're eating organically, unless it's grown in a greenhouse with filtered water, you're still absorbing this nanotechnology, and some of this nanotechnology is self-replicating. So I don't know anybody has access to 100% greenhouse food, but this aluminum and all of these heavy metals, you're consuming it by breathing it, drinking it, and eating it. So though we can monitor what our diets are, we're still exposed. And when that Wi-Fi is hitting me, I believe that what is happening inside my microwave oven when I put aluminum in there is what's happening inside my body.
Right.
So,
and that's
time is of the essence.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Pam. There's a little delay here. You know, I want to bring up another aspect of that before we close down, and that is the fires that happened in California and on the West Coast and Washington. These chemtrails, I'll use the easy language, that have been spraying this aluminum along with the other nanotech. Aluminum, when it gets ignited by a very high energy source, like a directed energy weapon, for instance, does burn hotter, which is why we saw steel and glass, tempered steel glass, melting there in those fires. And of course, aluminum itself, when it reaches that temperature, becomes an accelerant. It's like pouring gas on a fire. So that's one reason why we're seeing these fires that are so destructive and so hot. And the other thing is I wanted to bring up a situation that I actually experienced when I was in Vegas. This was probably about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. The chemtrails were especially bad that day. It definitely covered the sky. You could barely see the sun. And all of a sudden, I mean, now this is in the summertime, so it's not like somebody has a fire somewhere. There were no fires anywhere close by. And it started to look like snow was coming down, and it was very thick. If I had been, and I was outside, if I had been running or if I wasn't watching what I was doing, I could have easily breathed in these particles, and they were big enough to see. Well, I grabbed a few of them and I looked at them, and I recognized what they were. They were aluminum dioxide. That's exactly what it was. And it was absolutely like a flurry, a snow flurry of these things coming down. So we are breathing those things. So you're right. Diet isn't the answer, you know, the only answer to this thing. It's just part of the problem, part of the solution.
Right. Right.
So I wanted to say that.
Yeah, the fires here in California, you know, and I know we're trying to wrap up, but I want to say this. Look to locations of those particular fires. I can't help but think, you know, cults live in packs, okay?
Right.
All these little cults and stuff, they live in packs. Mm-hmm. They mingle amongst each other. They work amongst each other. But look at where these fires are. I can't help but think that those fires, intensified by the aluminum that they're spraying on us, was to cover up evidence on all this pedo stuff and just all this stuff that's going on. So, but anyway,
well,
I love this quite.
Yeah, you certainly can't put it past them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Pam, I want to thank you for coming on today. I'm sure that everybody that listened to you is very interested in all of that. It's cleared up some questions for me, and I'm sure it's cleared up a lot of questions for them. No, this is not tinfoil hat stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is for real, and I'm lending my credibility, for whatever that is, to that fact. Do a little study on your own. You don't have to take anything that either Pam or I say for granted, but don't listen to the MSM, and for God's sake, don't listen to just those scientists who spout the propaganda, and I'm going to call it that, of the New World Order and the deep state. a lot of the science foundations, certainly most of the scientific grants that are given to us by the government are given to those who agree to toe the line of what the government or the deep state or their donors want them to say, and that's very dangerous. Would you agree with that, Pam?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I got to tell you guys, scientists, just because for some reason we give them some sort of the elite status, who's to say that they're working on the behalf of humanity as a whole? They're working on behalf of the New World Order. They're working on behalf of this depopulation. They want us out of the way. So if there's one thing that I want to leave this conversation is, if you guys are having any undiagnosed symptoms, your doctor can't tune in to turn off your Wi-Fi. Matter of fact, everybody turn off your Wi-Fi tonight and turn it off every night for 5 nights. And then tell me if you're sleeping better or you're feeling better. I just encourage everybody to turn off their Wi-Fi. Wire your house with Ethernet. It's critical.
Well, thank you, Pam. I appreciate that, and thank you so much for coming on today. I'll let you go, and then I'll close the program down. But we'll do this again sometime in the future, okay?
Sounds good. God bless everybody.
All right. Out here, Pam.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, there she goes. So let me turn back. I know this, if I talk, it's going to be way too loud. Like I say, I've got to be my own technician here. Let me bring this down where I'm not causing so many problems to the transmission for blowing out your ears or distorting the sound. Hopefully that's a little better. Okay, well, that was something that I think we all needed to talk about, have a little discussion on. Know that there are people out there who, no matter what, will defend the status quo. And the status quo is not our friend. It hasn't been for a long time, and it's not going to be our friend in the foreseeable future. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. Well, I think we'll end it there, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that was of interest to all of you. It certainly was for me. We need to be reminded every once in a while of the seriousness of the situation we're in. We can't take these things lightly. All you have to do to understand how serious it really is to watch what those in power do. And you listen to people like Adam Schiff. You listen to people like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Comey, Holder, Obama, Hillary Clinton, on and on and on. And it really isn't about supporting our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's about their control over us. And indeed, I feel that in the end, their main objective is, just like the Georgia Guidestones refer to, and we've mentioned this before, to killing off all, either soft kill or hard kill if they have to, if that's what they decide on, especially if they feel cornered, to take the population of the earth down to about 500 million. Now, that might sound to some people like a reasonable idea, but let me guarantee you that God has given enough for us to survive, and more than enough, so that there's that and to spare. And if we use our technology and our hearts and minds, our brains to do the right thing, we can spread to the stars, and that's what we're destined to do, in my opinion. I know there are those who talk about the flat earth thing and all of that, but we'll talk about that sometime in the future too. The point being that there are evil forces on the earth that want to reduce the population. Georgia Guidestones say to 500 million. I can guarantee you that that's the most they want. They want to drop it far down below that. And as a matter of fact, they hate mankind. And I'm going to use that. I don't care if it's PC or not. That's what we are. We're mankind. There's a reason that we use that term. It's because that identifies us as the God seed. Okay? Whether you like that or not. Men and women are very special. The whole idea of the man-woman relationship is very special. And it should be honored and revered, and you know, like anything, it can be used sometime in the not best situation. But regardless, these demons aren't the ones that should be dictating anything concerning it, because their end result is to destroy mankind, and they hate mankind so much that even the genes in them The fact that they are in this form, they hate themselves. And that's really the fact of the matter. Okay, well, I won't go off into any other tangents today. I just, there's a lot of other things that we can talk about. But, we got to stay in a lane so that Potter doesn't get too verbose and, get hauled off onto some other topic area. We'll cover some more in the near future. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you coming in and taking part. And I'll just say that, again, I support Trump. I'm going to bring up Monograph here. Monograph has his skepticism, and he doesn't have his skepticism without justification. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, Trump has to prove himself even yet. And there are some things that we need to concern ourselves with, and we'll talk about those later. I mentioned a few things about Q and the distraction and who it might be. Monograph, of course, if you've listened to his the Magenta Code, he tells you who he is relatively certain is Q. I don't agree with that, and that's the thing about having other minds, that we're all in there and we're adding our 2 cents. It's an important conversation to look at the other possibilities, to be presented other things other than our own biases and prejudices. And I thank Monograph for doing that. A lot of people consider him to be, a problem because he brings these things up. I don't. I think they're these things we have to consider, because deceit in the world in the last days, which is what we are in, is real, and it's pervasive, and it's perverted. And we must be willing to look at all of these things and to try to weigh through them. We won't always be right, but we have to make the effort. So I'll just close down with that today, where we'll probably be going on another live stream at some point. Again, thank you. I support Donald Trump in his righteous endeavors. So therefore, let's end by saying God bless all of you. God bless the Second American Revolution, the restoration of the constitutional republic of the United States of America. And God bless President Donald Trump in his righteous endeavors. Until next time, out here. See what I mean about the technicians? All right, we'll see you later. Take care.